connect, solve painful problems, raise amazing adults, and have healthy families. Welcome to the Sean Donahue Show. Jordan and I do this podcast because we want your family to be close and connected. And we want you to feel empowered and equipped in your most important job, the most important job in the world. Let's go deeper than this podcast. Head to my website, parentingmodernteens.com, and get my email straight to your inbox. And when you're ready to go deep and get serious coaching from me, join me in my VIP membership. Parents are teachers and every home is a school. So teach well, love well. All right, let's have some fun together.
What's up, my fellow parents? Human beings, we are learners. We like learning things, trying new things. YouTube has become a new university, and our kids go there to learn things. I go there all the time to type in how-to videos. I go to Google and I learn. And one of the reasons I'm so honored to be a voice in your life is because you're coming here to this podcast to learn, to listen to new ideas, to be provoked, to be challenged, and you have a growth mindset towards parenting. And this is incredible for you, incredible for your kids, incredible for your grandkids, incredible for all of us, that we don't have to have this all figured out, that we want to learn about things and research and theories. And so here we are back again. And this is the third type of episode we've done something like this, where Jordan and I are looking at actual research-backed ways to raise kids right. We did it before, and we got really good feedback. And so here we are, Jordan. Let's look outside of ourselves. Let's learn from some super smart people that researched and did some nerdy stuff with kids and families and parents. And we're gonna read about what it is, and we're gonna try to play it out in our lives.
And I think the wise thing for us to realize, and a lot of us do, is like, think of the smartest person you know. What do they tend to say when you ask for advice? They probably say like, I'm always learning. I never stop learning. I'm always constantly trying to take in more information, because the reality is, like, you only know what you know at that point. And we're still learning. Like, we've been raising kids. How long have humans been around? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a new thing, but we're constantly learning new ways and new styles to do it. And for us to stay humble and know that there's different ways to bring up successful people, I think is the best aspect.
Yeah, man. I don't know if it's good for me to be sharing this, but I have to admit that sometimes when I'm talking to, potential clients that want to work with me or join my VIP, and sometimes they say some things to me, and I get a really salty attitude. Can I tell you what I hear that really gets on my grind? There's two things.
I probably said some of these things. What is it?
No, I don't know. No, it's particularly things that people say to single moms. Here's what happens. Single moms or stay-at-home moms. Excuse me. So imagine that you are a stay-at-home mom, and here you are. You got one, or you got three kids, you got four, you got two kids, five, whatever, and you're thinking about investing in a parenting experience, whether it be with me or somebody else.
Sure.
And let's say your husband, travels for work, or just works at a corporation or a company. Now that husband is getting a lot of training in his work to be the best employee or worker he can be.
Sure. Right.
So then the stay-at-home mom comes and says, "Hey, I want to buy this parenting experience with Sean. I want to be able to talk with him." And he says, "No." And it doesn't make sense. And then the wife's like, "Well, I want you to support me." And then he makes some excuses. And sometimes I get a bad attitude, because it's like, I'm not trying to, I just think that the stay-at-home parent role and the parenting role, these are the most important roles in our society and our culture. And we should be able to invest our minds into learning new things and invest our budgets and our time into our families, right?
I mean, you couldn't have said it better. So have you ever had to break down that statement to, let's say, the dad or the other person saying no, and then they come to a realization like, you're right. Because when you say that, you are right.
Because I'm not trying to, like, it's not a sales pitch or something. It's just like, hey, this is like how I think we should look at parenting. We should be just like we take our kids on vacations, investment in the family. We should invest our time and other resources into growing. Now, speaking of other investing into our family as a surprise I want to show you. Now, here we are, just to be clear to everyone listening here. Jordan we are not in some fancy podcast studio. I'm currently in my Toyota Tundra truck recording this podcast because it's early in the morning and my family is sleeping. And Jordan is at work on a break from work. Everybody, we love this podcast. And this is how we're coming at you. Jordan, I have a surprise for you. Ready? And help me understand what is on my head right now. Everybody.
Dude, that's so cool. So for those who can't see, Sean put on a hat, and it's a handprint. It's a blue handprint, and on next to the handprint, think of the brand Body Glove. For anybody who knows Body Glove, it's a handprint, but next to it, yellow lettering that says Kinlan's Crew. Kinlan's my son with Down syndrome. And we have this whole idea of like Kinlan's Crew. And we've got people around the country and maybe around the world who are just supportive of him and those who have, our special needs and need special love and special attendance. Well, we partnered with this nonprofit that was like, hey, we want to make a logo for you. And we're going to, have people buy some merch, and we're going to raise all the money, and we're going to donate it back to Gigi's Playhouse in Atlanta, who helps kids with disabilities, specifically Down syndrome. And so Sean bought a hat, a trucker hat or whatever it is, and you can wear it. Dude, that's so cool. I haven't even gotten mine yet. That looks killer.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So we'll do a little post on Instagram. So it sounds like this is a fundraiser for Gigi's Playhouse. Is that what this is? I didn't ask. All I said is you posted something, say, hey, support Kinlan's Crew. I was like, bye. And I love to support in any other ways that I can. It was
a 2-week, launch, and anything they raised in those 2 weeks goes straight to the Gigi's Playhouse. So I thought it was this cool nonprofit helping another nonprofit, and that looks good, man. Thank you.
Well, I love you, man, and I've never met your son, but I can't wait to meet him in person. And yeah, just a reminder, I'm in Northern California, and Jordan's in Georgia, and we were friends in San Diego, and now we do a podcast. Now let's get to it. Now here's what happens. Here's the backstory of what you're about to hear. Okay, so I've done a lot of research to get ready for this episode, and one of the things I found was an article that was from Time Magazine, which is entitled Good Parenting Skills, 7 Research-Backed Ways to Raise Kids Right. And if you read the article, it says in the very beginning that actually what they have here is they shared these research-backed ways, but then what they actually did is they read a book, and the book is called Nurture Shock, New Thinking About Children. And what Nurture Shock did is it actually went in and looked at all these high-level research papers on parenting, and then they just reported the news in a little easy to read Time Magazine. And now we're just doing the same thing. We're just doing, and I'm going to share a few of these highlights from this book, and then Jordan and I are going to talk about it, and we're going to discuss it, and we're going to talk about why it's hard or why it's easy or why we don't want to do it. And I think I'm really excited for this episode.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, like, a lot of us probably have these same ideas, but what's great about having you on here is expanding on how to maybe do it right, because a lot of these aren't groundbreaking. I'm going to be honest with you right now, but the way Sean teaches it is a little different than the way I would probably go about it.
Yeah, thank you. I've got some stuff prepared, some stories to tell, because I want to come and make every episode different and challenging and thought provoking. And so, here's something here's rule number. Here's the first thing that we want to share, okay, from Nurture Shock in this time. Now, on the surface, it's going to sound like, duh, but let's break it down. Now, I wonder why they wrote this. Number one way, research-backed ways to raise kids right. It says kids need rules. That's what it says. Right? Without me going into any deeper, which I will. What's your take on that? Kids.
No duh. I mean, like, obviously, like, let's get real here. You can't just let them go to bed whenever, eat whatever they want, do whatever they want, talk to you whatever they want. No kids would go to school. Who wants to go? You know what I mean? This isn't just for kids. This is for adults too. I mean, we kind of need foundation rules, or else things can get very sloppy.
Good. That's a good take. Yeah. If you think about the childhood experience outside of our home is normally very structured. They go to school and they have to follow routines by bells. They might go to Girl Scouts. They might go to sports. And there's very much structure. But the reason why, there's a lot of reasons why that I think they're putting this in this book. What's your opinion? I'm going to tell you my opinion. Why are they putting this in a book? Duh. Kids needs rules. But something's going on in our society a lot right now in 2024 and beyond that I think there's a reason why they wrote that in here. And I don't know the reason, but what's your take on the reason?
Well, I just feel like our rules are moving. Let's say the line of the rule is moving and we're getting more lax on it and we're getting more problematic, more kids. Think about school back in the day when they had a little, a little ruler they could spank your kids with, right? Now, I'll have my brother call me and say, well, I'm going to pick up my kid again because my daughter, talked back to the teacher one time and they said, well, now you have to go home because you talked back to me. I'm like, what are you talking about? Why doesn't the school punish them or like put them in timeout? Like, oh no, they don't do that anymore. They just have their parents come pick them up. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? How are we supposed to get anything done in this world if every teacher is going to be worried to do something? Because ironically, it's because parents are like suing school districts and are part of the problem too.
Oh my gosh. We should probably do a whole episode on this. Is how our society, how and why our culture, our society is broken down having rules and boundaries around children, because there's a lot of different reasons. You just talked about a couple other reasons. Here's what the article reads, and I'm going to tell you some of the reasons why I think it's in here. It writes this, quote, it's a myth that being too strict causes rebellion and being permissive equals better behavior. Let me tell you my thoughts on this. Okay, so I like to describe myself, Jordan, as a part of the positive parenting movement. Now, this word came before the word conscious parenting or gentle parenting, but we have a lot of parents right now that are very much want to do gentle or conscious parenting or positive parenting. That's good. Please do it. But what it doesn't mean to parent your child this way, it doesn't mean they don't have rules. It doesn't mean they don't have boundaries. It means they do have rules. They do have boundaries. They do have to hit the edge of the pool. That's a good way of thinking about parenting. There has to be a boundary there. And it's your job to be the strong parent, to be the one that says no. The one that says, no, you're too young. Say, yes, you have to do that. But you just do it in a positive, loving, connected way. And we've got a bunch of confused, scared parents out there right now that do not want to give their kids rules for a lot of different reasons, man.
So it's okay for us to be firm. It's okay for us to be strict.
Yes. I'm firm and I'm strict in some areas with my parenting. Yes, but it's how we do it. Here's a quote from the article. It talks about teenagers, okay? Because we're all kind of scared. And I think one of the reasons why parents don't give kids rules is because they're scared. I think they do it because they're lazy. They're scared of conflict. They're scared of traumatizing their kid. I think a lot of parents are so overly strict because their parents were overly strict. And I think a lot of other parents are overly strict because their parents were not. And they're like,
yeah, so you do the opposite.
Here's a quote. Pushing a teen into rebellion by having too many rules was a sort of statistical myth that actually doesn't happen, remarked Darling, the author of this, research. Kids who go wild and get in trouble mostly have parents who don't set rules and standards. Remember, that's the word mostly in there. Their parents are loving and accepting no matter what the kids do. But the kids take the lack of rules as a sign of their parents actually don't care. That the parent doesn't really want this job of being the parent. Now that makes sense there. I've heard kids tell me that. My parents working a lot, or they don't care, they're just chill, or, my parents don't really care. And they actually kind of get resentful that their parents are not setting these boundaries. I've seen this so many times.
Which is so hard too, because as a parent who's like, let's say working 2 jobs, you're like, I'm only doing this to help raise you and to give you the life, let's say, I never had. So it's like this psychological mind, F that like you as a parent are doing so much to like give them something you didn't have. And yet for the kid, they're like, oh, they're doing so much. They don't even care about me.
Yes. I have a client right now. A wonderful, wonderful, loving mom who's got a 22-year-old son. And she is putting some boundaries and accountability around her 22-year-old son. And how do you think the 22-year-old young man is responding to this, being accountable to his parents now? How do you think he's responding?
I don't know but can he say like, sorry, I'm an adult. I can do my own. I can make my own decisions.
He's still accountable because he's a college student.
Okay.
So he's being funded still.
Okay.
But
okay. There's something hanging there. Okay.
You're in college, and all of a sudden mom and dad are coming down and they're saying, hey, we're not okay with some of these behaviors. We're funding this. We support you. And we are not moving forward in any more of this funding or these things that we are planning on doing because we're not comfortable with this. How do you think a 22-year-old man is responding to that?
I mean, he probably doesn't like hearing that, but I mean, it's like, you better suck it up, Buttercup, if you want to continue to go to school and have it paid for.
Yeah, exactly true. He does not, and it's hard for him. But you know what? This is what the young man needs, because everybody is accountable to somebody. We're accountable to our viewers right now and our listeners. If we were to say something outlandish or weird, we would be canceled. We would stop listening. I'm accountable to my wife. I'm accountable to the police. I'm accountable to you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all accountable to somebody. Here's a couple things that I want to go a little bit deeper on rules, because I want to give you something that I've done with my daughters that I think could be really helpful. Let me read a couple more quotes first. Is that okay?
Yeah. Go for it.
Parents who set ground rules, the article reads, and listen to these ands and alsos. Parents who set ground rules and consistently enforce them. That's a big miss for some parents.
Yeah,
right?
I'm guilty of it too. So don't think. I mean, I
do not consistently. You got a lot of parents who are people pleasers. They're cavers. They don't forget. They forget their kids have a D and F, and they're still like doing all these wonderful things for them. Their kids are abusing screens, abusing them, verbally abusing them, avoiding, and there's just no boundaries. Their kids are abusing drugs, alcohol. Parents who set ground rules and consistently enforce them were also the parents who were the warmest.
So I got to ask you this on that statement, because you've talked to us about like not being a believer in, let's say, timeouts or taking things away. Right. So like, let's say the ground rule is, hey, we expect you to go to school all day, not get in a fight, do your work. And if you don't have that, then this is going to happen. Is that a situation where that would be okay? Because that's a rule. And if they break it, then we take something away.
Yeah, I think this is, I like that you brought that up, because that's really a question about discipline. That's a question of, how do I respond when my kid breaks the rule? And that's not what we're going to concentrate on today. We've done other episodes on discipline, because discipline is so complicated, and there's so many different ways we do discipline. I don't know if you've noticed, we don't really spend as much time on discipline on this podcast. And I spend more time on that with my membership in their individual family, because how you discipline a 5-year-old
is different.
So different how you discipline a 10-year-old. And it's so different how you discipline a high school student. You know what I mean? So to this college kid, let's say the ground rule was, hey, we expect you to go to college, be a reflection on your family, get good grades, blah, blah, blah. Then these parents come, they see he's living a different lifestyle. They don't like that. So then therefore this rule is like, hey, we could technically take your funding away because you're not living up to our rules. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because essentially, let's just say that the son is doing something wrong or immoral or illegal, or he's abusing the privilege that he's been given. If the parents keep funding this and paying for all of this lifestyle, well, they're enabling it, right? They're funding it. And they're saying, hey, we don't feel comfortable doing this. And so we don't want to stop paying for college, but we'll talk about everything we can in our here's a couple things I want to think about, and I want to tell you a couple stories. Here's a couple quotes. All right, now I hope there's a word here that you're going to hear for this second time. So let me finish that other quote. Parents who set ground rules and consistently enforce them are also the parents who are the warmest, and their children lied less than most kids. Another quote. Ironically, the type of parents who actually were most consistent in enforcing rules are the same parents who are the most warm and have the most conversations with their kids, Darling observed. They set a few rules over certain key spheres of influence, and they've explained why the rules are there. They expect the child to obey them. Over life's other spheres, they supported the child's autonomy, allowing her freedom to make her own decisions. The kids of these parents lied the least. Rather than hiding 12 areas from their parents, they might be hiding as few as 5. That doesn't mean you should be a tiger mom. Parents that are too controlling, that can cause problems. So let's just break down that quote, because there's a couple things I want everyone to hear. Can you break down that quote? What did you hear me say there?
Well, my thought is like, it sounds like their parents or the parents in this situation have a good relationship with their kids and staying on top of them, right? Constantly checking in and constantly communicating with them. But I feel like there's a fine line here between someone who is an active parent versus a helicopter parent, which we've talked about before.
Yes.
And therefore, you go too far, that could cause problems.
Yes, that's so true. Fine line for everything in all relationships. I just think that the word that hit me the hardest is she said the word warm twice. Warm. Like,
It's a great word. It's a great feeling. When you feel warm around someone, that's so much better than, oh, I feel cold about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, warm. It's warm parenting. It's like, I'm connected. I'm flexible. I care about you. And
like a warm bath. It's nice.
Ooh, warm bath. Oh.
With bubbles.
Here's what I heard in that quote. I heard that we should be warm. We should have boundaries, be warm about it, and we should pick our battles wisely. That was the whole part about the spheres. That's what she was talking about. Hey, like, you can't be picking every battle. Like, for example, like for so many parents, they need to stop picking the battle with their high school student of keeping their room clean. Like, why would you do that? Like, it's just, if your teenagers will not want to keep their room clean, like, let that sphere go so you can focus on other more important fears. Like, can you imagine how much the relationship would benefit and the home would grow in harmony if you would just let that battle go? And I'm not advising you to do that. I'm just saying that's an example of like a sphere where, like, because if you pick this battle of keeping your room clean, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. The teenager's going to be like, what the hell, you know?
Yeah. And that makes sense hearing you say it. My mind goes to like, well, what if you have a theory of like the room is like the staple thing that you must do, or it's the idea that everything else will be good if I can see that you keep your room clean. If I see that you don't keep your room clean, it means chaos. It means messy. Who knows what your relationships are like, what your schoolwork is like. So I get this like other mindset where I'm like, well, wait, the room could mean a lot more than just the room.
We do. Yeah, man. And that is totally our generation right now. We've been told, because there's a famous book and a famous speech called Make Your Bed. We've been told, and we tell ourselves it's a generational thing that, you know, that having a kid keep their room clean means you're going to have a good kid. And I just don't get it, man. I don't get it. I don't agree. The research isn't there with something we make up. But here's
how do you feel about, hold on, let me ask you this about adults now. How do you feel about adults with messy cars?
Oh, good point. Oh, I do not like it. I got into a nasty car recently, and it would gross me out, dude.
Right? So, like, there's something to be said about a clean room and a clean car.
Yeah, they're really. Yeah, buddy, dude. Oh my gosh, what a brilliant! I do not like getting into a nasty car.
And the reason why I say that is because there's there's a lot of, let's say you rent a house and you have a landlord, right? There's a lot of landlord owners that listen to podcasts about landlording and about tenants and all this stuff. And there's this idea where it's like when you're gonna work with someone or maybe have someone live in your house, you look at their car to see how they take care of their car. Because if it's a mess, then you know that the house is going to be a mess or their work is going to be a mess. It's a metaphor.
Good. Oh my gosh. I don't know how that is a really, here's what I think we should chat about. Okay. So here we are. The article is telling us to be parents of rules, and everyone is shaking their head up and down. It's like, I agree. But Jordan, you have rules for your kids and I have rules for mine. So let me ask you, you ask me, what do you do if our kids don't obey our rules?
Like, well, I mean, what I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to bring this up right off the top, because your first thing is it's a myth that being too strict causes rebellion. And I have a story of one of my best buds in college, and maybe this is a one-off. Maybe this will ring, true to other people listening as well. But he had such a strict family dynamic, big religious. You have to do this. You cannot do this. He wasn't even allowed to talk to girls all the way through high school at all. And he had one girl that he liked. They had to secretly pass notes. He finally rebelled, right? Because of all these strict rules. He ended up marrying her. He had her as a wife in college. It was fantastic. But then he started to rebel, and it was his first taste of freedom and like away from the parents. And he went off the deep end, got divorced, and went down the rabbit hole in a different way. He's circled back now, but there was that rebellious state because of being too strict. So can we be too strict with too many rules?
Oh, it's so true. Look, here's a couple stories that, we've all got to figure this out for ourselves. Jordan and I don't have the answers for your specific situation, but let me just tell you a couple things to think about. Okay. So we have a rule. We normally have like really white couches in our house, right?
Yeah. I don't know why you do that with
I've had
kids.
babies in my life and toddlers and little kids in my life for the last 19 years. And during that time, we've always had really white, nice couches. And so we have a rule, no standing on the couch, right? That's just a rule. And no roughhousing on the couch. Because think about it, if you have little kids and you have a couch, you lose either way. Either A, you lose because you let your kids trash your couch, and that's embarrassing and expensive, and then you have a nasty couch or that has stuff on it, or you lose because you're always tell your kids don't jump on the couch, and that's annoying.
Right.
So which path did you go? Did you go with the no kids, don't mess up the couch path? Or did you go with the path of, it's a couch, it's going to get messed up? Or did you go with
our couch was an expensive couch. Like for my stage of life, it was like a $3,000 couch. And I'm like, what are we buying? This is ridiculous. And my wife is like, I want a semi-white couch also. Not pure white, but semi-white. However, we went with the washable couch cushions couch.
Yes.
Because we knew the kids were going to, spill on it. I don't like them jumping on it as much, but what? Kids that's fine. Whatever. Just don't break it.
We had a phase where we did a couple IKEA couches. So you could wash the covers. They're cheap couches. You have to freak out because that's tough. You get an expensive couch. So my first two kids, they really honored that rule pretty well. But my current 7-year-old, she does not want to follow the rule. So what do I do? Do I spank her? Do I time out her? Do I lecture her to death? Do I just let it go and let her jack up our couch because this is a very expensive couch?
Dude, you can buy one of those little trampolines that they hold on to and just jump, like the little single trampolines. Put that in the house.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen my wife's Instagram page. There's no way that's going to be going in our house, buddy. Come on.
That's true.
In the house, right?
That's true.
So, no, I think that this is where it comes into, like, if here's something to be very helpful. Okay, think about your rules, and they could be: you don't want your kid jumping on a couch, you don't want your kid eating junk food, you don't want your kid getting a tattoo, you don't want your kid doing oral sex, you don't want your kid looking at pornography, you don't want your kid cheating. Whoa, I just jumped. I know that was extreme, everybody. Like,
no, but you're going down that path. That's good. I'm glad you. Yes.
And here's the best way to look at this. You've got to differentiate in your mind, everybody. There's a difference between rules and values. We all
that's
have
good.
about the same 20 rules for our kids, like brush your teeth, do your schoolwork, say please and thank you. Don't
kill yourself. Don't jump off a ledge and when it's too high and break a leg. Try not to break a leg.
Don't use screens. We all have
don't run out in traffic
rules. But while there's 20 rules, there's about 20,000 values. And my 7-year-old does not have the same value as I do regarding that couch. You with me?
Yes.
She doesn't feel the same way. And so if your teenager is making choices with Snapchat or with, romantic choices or sexual choices or with substances, it means that they don't really want to follow your rules. If you have a rule for that. And the reasons why is because they don't feel the same way about those topics as you. They have a different value system.
Yeah, but can we help them understand why it's a good value to you, and maybe they'll respect that?
Yeah, we sure can. So here's like a personal, private story of how I've tackled a value topic and a rule topic in my house. And I'm not saying this is the best way of going about it. This is just what felt right for me, and I got my wife's blessing to go about this. So we thought about making a rule for our daughters, no dating until you're 16. Oh, there's a lot of families that make this rule. Were you aware of that? No dating until a certain age.
Correct.
Now, have you thought about making any rules like that for your kids?
No, I'm not even at that stage right now. Nope.
Okay.
I should probably think about it though.
Can you see why do you think some parents would make that rule? No dating until you're 16. No dating in, why do you think some parents would make that rule?
Is it because you want your kids to be kid-like for as long as possible, not have to worry about that drama?
Definitely, man. Definitely. We don't want.
Yeah, they're not mature enough yet to go down that path. Yeah.
We don't trust. I know a lot about teen dudes. I probably know more about teen dudes than anyone you ever meet. And I've got 3 daughters.
Yeah, right.
So I'm scared, right? And so what I did with my oldest and with my youngest is I said something like this. This is the short version. I said, look, so you're about, 13. And so this is the short version. I would prefer that you would wait until you're older to start dating, like junior or senior year, like 16. And I just would prefer that because I love you. I know a lot about teen dating, and I just want you to be patient. And I would feel more comfortable if you started dating when you were older. Well, why, Dad? Why? Thanks for asking. Well, because I've just seen a lot of teenagers get hurt when they start dating in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade. I've seen my friends get hurt. Your mother got hurt when she started dating at a young age. Things can escalate very, very, very quickly. And so I'm thinking about making a rule, but I don't know if we should have a rule. How do you think she responded to that? This is like, we're talking like.
Well, yeah, because now you're bringing her into the conversation of maybe deciding that this is going to be real. You're not just setting it in stone. You're like, hey, let's talk about this. This is good.
So then she said to me, this conversation happened 10 years ago now. No, she's almost 19. So this was probably when she was 13. And I knew she was talking about boys and dating with their friends. Some of her friends have started dating and kissing. And I said, well, I think, would you like to have a rule? And then she said, why would I have a rule? Why would I want a rule? Right? Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? And I said, well, that's a good point. Some people would want a rule. That way you just know, like, this is a rule. I agree to the rule, and there's no pressure for you. You could tell your friends, no, my dad has a rule. Or we have a rule, no dating until I'm 16. So you just let it go. You just know this is where we're at. She said, oh, that's a good point. I said, yeah. So do you want a rule? She said, I don't think so.
Right. Of course I don't want a rule.
Why not? She's like, I don't know. I just don't know how I'm going to feel. Like, I don't want to date right now. I'm not interested in dating.
Yeah.
But like, why would I make a rule for something I don't know like a year from now or 2 years from now? I was like, that's a good point.
What if she finds someone that she's really keen over?
Right. So then my fear, honey, I said to her, is that if I were to make a rule or we would even agree upon the rule, what if you change your mind? And then now you're going to be tempted to lie to me or sneak behind your back. And I wouldn't want that.
Right.
I wouldn't want that.
Right.
Like that would be so weird and heartbreaking for us. So
did she come to the conclusion of like, well, how about this, Dad? How about if there's anyone I'm interested in, I'll talk to you about it?
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. That's exactly what you want.
And I said, look, I just want you to know I'm going to be very chill with so many topics through the teen years. I'm going to be chill. I'm going to be a cool dad. But there's a few things that really scare me based on what I've been through, what your mom's been through. And I'm scared of teen boys.
Yeah.
And I'm scared of how they're going to treat you. And I'm scared of you dating too young. And I told her a couple stories of teen girls that I knew that started dating too young and bad things happened to them. And I told storytelling. And storytelling is such a great way to share your feelings, express your heart, and develop win-wins. And
so I don't know if she's going to want us to tell this, but if I can ask, do you remember what age she was when she got her first boyfriend?
She was 16.
Look how that worked out for you there, buddy.
But,
that's awesome.
I did the same thing with my second daughter,
who
I thought would never, of the daughters, I thought this girl she may not date till she's 18. Right?
Yeah.
She's just so confident in herself. She's so likable. She's so uninterested in boys. And so then we hang out. And she says to me one day, hey, I met a new friend. And I was thinking, can you take us to the car show? And so how cool is this? I took her and this boy to a car show, and we looked at Lamborghinis, Ferraris, classic cars, and they were just friends.
Yeah.
And then I took them to another car show as friends. And I'm just like, wow, it's so cool. Like, I get to hang out with my daughter and who go to car shows.
Right.
And then I start seeing they're hanging out more, but they're just friends. And I'm just asking, so what's going on with you and this young man?
Friend.
Yeah, we're just friends. It's clear they're just friends. And then she talks to mom and I, and she says, hey, I think I like him and I want to be boyfriend, girlfriend. And she's 14.
That's when I met Danny, 14.
So so my second daughter has a boyfriend, and we actually
at 14
went out with him and his family last night, all for Big Valentine's Day. And there's no rule, because the rule was not going to be working for her.
Yeah.
And we might have contention in our relationship, and we trust over rules, relationship over rules.
So wise.
We're going.
So two great stories that you shared with different outcomes, but the same idea, right? It's, in this book or this study, kids need rules. Yes, that's ultimately what we're talking about, but it doesn't have to be the same rule for every kid at every stage of age.
Relationship. Let's play this game with me. And then I think, I think we should, play this game with me, okay? Let's make up a game of stuff. That's actually something I like to say. I say this to people sometimes. I don't have a lot of gifts in life. I really don't. Just trust me. You get to know me, you know me. I do not have a lot of gifts. One of my gifts is talking about parenting. Another gift is making parenting videos. And I only have about 5 gifts in life. And one of them is writing fantasy football blogs for my friends, talking about fantasy football in a group chat. And my 4th gift is making up little games. That's it, man. That's all I'm good for. Those 4 things. Maybe one of the.
Hey, dude, you can make some big money on making little games. You should patent some of these. Okay, what's this game?
They're not that good now. They're not that good.
Oh.
Here's a game. Okay, play this game with me, okay? And everyone play along. Okay, relationship over rules. I'll go next, okay? Relationship over a perfect couch.
Oh, I see what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, everyone go play. Everyone play along.
Relationship over chores, which ultimately could be rules.
That's good. Okay.
Relationship over. Ooh, this is a big one. A relationship over food choices.
Oh, that's a big one. That's
so
a good one, dude. Oh, here's a good one. Relationships with family members over my political agenda and beliefs.
Ooh, yes, that is so good. How many families got broken up after COVID and all that?
This is fun.
I like that.
Okay. Hey, can we go a few more?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The tough thing, I don't know if I want to go here, but could you argue relationship over drug use?
Oh, gosh.
Because sometimes you have to cut the relationship in order to heal the drug use. That one's tough, but you still want that relationship because you love them.
Oh, that's so deep, so complicated.
That's a deep one.
Because, that's what drugs is, a symptom of disconnection from relationships. And the way you heal drug addiction is through relationships. So that's super complicated. Relationship. Oh my gosh.
Relationships
over a clean teenage bedroom.
Oh, that's a no-brainer, right? We want that. We want these relationships. Relationships over young teenage love.
That's exactly. Yeah, so I've got some clients, and of course I'm going to honor their privacy, and they're just they're going through the 5 stages of grief right now, dead serious, because
that's hard.
That their teenager is making sexual choices, and they're just shocked and sad and devastated because that's not part of their values,
right?
And they're scared, and they just think that this teenager is doing it too young.
And is the teenager obviously open about it with her or his parents? Is that how they know?
Yes, which is actually a huge win.
Right. Because they're communicative about it, but that's hard as a parent to receive that and hear that and then figure out how do you parent it. Because like I was thinking, let's say with your first daughter story, it's like, I want to set this rule to be 16. And let's say she said, yes, let's set that rule. And then let's say at 15, she says, I really see this guy that I really want to be with and we love each other or whatever. Are you going to be a stickler to the rule, or are you going to be like, okay, I'm going to let this rule go?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same thing with this family that you're talking about. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, they already acknowledge that the way that strong teenager is, that this teenager is going to go and do this no matter what. And so they literally are we going to send them to boarding school over this topic? We literally are thinking about that. But then the reality is they know that would crush their relationship. This is part of their teenager's, moral decision. And what do you do? So what do you actually do in these situations where your teen goes and does something which is so scary for you? What you do, and I can coach you through this if this happens to you, is you actually get closer to them. You get closer.
I was going to ask how you coach that. That makes sense.
You have to accept that this is their choice. It doesn't mean you approve. Accept, not approve. That doesn't mean you accept by maybe funding it or pretending everything's okay.
Burying your head in the sand.
Humanize yourself. It's just super complicated there's so many topics, right? It doesn't mean you just accept your teenager's screen addiction or accept that they're in an abusive relationship, right? Or accept that they're getting D's and F's. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about moral value decisions that are just very, very complicated, right?
So just to kind of circle back real quick before we end this thing, kids need rules. Relationships are the most important thing over all of that. But there's this quote or a statement that you had here in the beginning. I want to read it again. It says, parents who set ground rules and consistently enforce them, which I think is a big one for us adults to actually step up to the plate. We say something, and I'm guilty of that. I'll say, if you do this and blah, 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 and then I will not follow up. And I'm getting to the point where I'm beginning to follow up. For me, it's on my kids' food choices, and they are not liking it. But I'm like, listen, I'm not going to make 4 different meals for everybody. This is what we're doing from now on. And so I'm going to keep at it and let you guys know how it is. But this has been good, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. How do we do what the article says and have rules, but also do what the article says and be warm, but also do what I say to do, which is relationship over your own ego and your own set of rules needs to take place. And that's, one of the characteristics of positive parenting, because if you don't do that, then you're going to be authoritarian parenting. And then your kids are going to then lie to you. They're going to sneak with you. They're not going to feel like they have a voice. You're picking too many battles, and you've got to parent the child you have, not the child you want. And man, This is why we're here together, because parenting is tough. And I just want to let you know, I love you. You were a good parent. Thank you so much for letting Jordan and I be a voice in your life and to share this with you. We are all in this together, so do not give up. And if you need any extra support, well, then you can click that link and contact me. You can book a free 10-minute consultation with me. Jordan, tell me something you're thankful for as we wrap up our time together.
Well, I was going to see if you could pass along what I'm thankful for today. And it's the stories you shared with your daughters. And I know you wanted to make sure that they were cool with it. So just let them know that we are all thankful to hear that, because a lot of us have gone through that same thing. And it was really cool to hear how that impacted you and how you parented that. So thank you and thank them.
Hey, man, you know what I'm thankful for? This hat that I'm wearing. It says here, best chromosome ever, Kinlan's crew. I'm just thankful for you, and I'm thankful for this good organizations that rally parents around really important causes and rally people around to be able to support, good causes. So thank you for all the work that everyone's doing in charity and giving back and in just making this world a better place. Let's just keep loving our kids as best as we can. And thanks for letting us be a voice in your life, everybody.
Amen.
Thank you so much for joining us today. You are a good parent. Oh my gosh, family life and parenting is so hard. I hope today gave you some tools and some inspiration. And if you're enjoying this podcast, then please do me a favor. Leave us a positive review on your podcast provider. And if you're hearing this and you're struggling as a parent, your family is struggling, or you need parenting tools for that one challenging, struggling kid, Well, I will see you in a live Zoom call inside my VIP membership, and I will give you the specific tools you need to solve every problem you have and to stay strong, be close, and teach with.